Today, we're out here in Calgary, Alberta to meet the expert of track inspection from Trans-Canada Audit, Mr. Tom Gough. Tom, how you doing?
Not bad, Deb. Pleased to meet you.
I mean, kind of my first question is, where are we, right? Where are we, and
So
kind of
we're
what's
in an industrial track right now, right? So these industrial tracks at one time, and like in the 60s and 70s, were very, very busy, because what they do is they send a switcher out from either CN or CP, and they'd go to all these industrial tracks and pick up these cars that are either being loaded or unloaded, and then bring them back to the central yard, and then just decimate them to different destination tracks, Vancouver, Toronto, right?
I know you have a job to do here, so let's keep going.
Okay, so here's our switch stand. So this is an industrial switch, so it's not as high tech and as robust as some of our mainline switches. But to to change the direction of the track or the car to go down one track or the other, then we have to line the switch. And that's a fairly simple process. We throw it just to make sure that the switch is properly functioning, and that's part of our inspection. Now we lift up the handle, we want to make sure we don't stand behind it, because obviously if there's any stress in this handle, it's going to, see, it's going to whip over. So we always stand behind it. Then we take a position up behind it and grab both hands. I usually like to keep one foot behind me as a safety, and as I pull across, I push down, and the switch is then thrown for the other direction, correct? And then we check the points to make sure we have the right gap here. There's a certain gap that we need here, and it is in compliance. So it's about 4 3/4 inches there. I worked for CP Rail for 39 years, close to 40, and I started out repairing track, pounding spikes, and then within a couple of years I was a truck driver, a 3-ton truck driver. Then I moved up to an extra gang foreman, looking after a crew of 12 guys. We'd go into the tunnels and field. So the railway was actually really good to me. I mean, obviously they needed me just as much as I needed them. So I accepted that, and I accepted any challenge they offered me, and I very much enjoyed my job. I did 20 years on the track, and then 20 years as an instructor. So I really stress safety in this industry. Even like you'll see me looking behind me every once in a while, those cars are parked, but I still have my peripheral vision, and I've got to be situationally aware, right? Because those cars can roll, they can, someone could move them, they don't know you're here. So you've got to be really careful working around the railway. So we've got good cross level here, the cross level 0. Yep. And we've got good gauge, right? So we're just under that 56.5, which is good. No, the railway is actually a good industry. I'd like to see more young people get into it. As far as a good solid income, you're never without a job for the railway, especially in the maintenance department. And I mean, let's face it, I mean, a high school diploma now, you can, like a locomotive engineer can earn anywhere from $120 to $160 a year. And sky's the limit as far as advancement goes. If you're willing to take the responsibility to move on to a higher caliber job, they're more than happy to train you and put you into those positions, right? Now, what we inspect for, some key components, is we check the gauge of the track. And the gauge of the track, it basically matches the gauge of the wheels to some respect. There's a little bit of tolerance on the wheels in relation to the track, but the track gauge is 56.5 inches at standard. Class 1 is our slowest class of track, which is up to 10 miles an hour. Class 2 is up to 25. And as you get higher in class or higher in speed, then the defect tolerances get a little bit tighter, right? To the point where, you've got to make the repair. So as you can see here, we got 56.5 inches, so that's our standard gauge. The cross level is one rail height in relation to the other. So we'd like to have it at 0, but again, we've got certain tolerances that we can, play with that a little bit, and we can't let it go too far. But we're right about 0 there now. We're about 1/4 inch low on this side, but that's well within the parameters that's allowable. I think we're seeing a little bit of a resurgence now with moving mass amounts of people, and it is very economical with the train system.
Especially on the environmental piece as well, right? I think people are waking up to the fact that, we have all this track laid here, we have all this infrastructure built, but it's actually the most efficient way. So.
Exactly. Well, when you look at places like Banff, and you've got all these Calgarians going out to Banff by their vehicles, say 2 million in 1 week, well, that creates quite the, stress on the infrastructures and the environment and everything else. So moving people by train is a very, economical and of course, when we talk about the environment, it helps with the environment as well. This is what we call a derail. This derail, if that car was to move uncontrollably, that derail, as you can see how it's set up here, the wheel would climb here and then guide the wheel off the track, and the other one would fall between the two rails, and that would stop the car basically before it got to a place of danger.
Is there a speed at which the derailers don't work anymore?
Yeah, so we'd like not to park the cars any farther than 100 feet away, because we want to keep this derail so that the cars don't gain a speed of more than 6 miles an hour.
Okay, so really in a yard environment, at a facility.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Tom, for teaching me everything about track inspection and how to stay safe on the railway.
Well, you're very welcome, Dev, and I'm glad you took an interest, and I appreciate you coming out and talking to us.
Thanks.
Thank you.